business, and I've got one too. You can't mind your business. What's the matter with you?
Welcome to the latest episode of the Brand Shorthand Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Vandergrift, and with me is the big brand of positioning, Lorraine Kessler. Thing one,
Yes.
your moniker touches on our topic today, which
Yeah.
is big brands, big trouble. Do you
Right.
remember where you were or what you were doing when this Jack Trout book was published? If not, I'll give you a hint.
All right. Well, give me the hint.
Okay. 9/11.
So, wow. That would have been 2001.
Uh-huh.
And I would have been at Innis Majori,
Yeah.
interviewing the principals at that time to determine what our position should be.
Excellent.
As
Well,
a-
that's a good year,
Mhm.
except for 9/11. But it was published 4
Yeah.
weeks after 9/11 on October 5th,
Oh, wow.
2001. I'm kind of surprised he didn't delay the publishing of it because I know a lot of people delayed a lot of things. But it's been 23 years.
Right.
And I don't know that many of the big brands in this world have yet to learn the hard lessons that Jack codified in this book,
Right.
Big Brands, Big Trouble.
Yeah.
We have plenty of new examples of brands breaking these principles today. But
Yeah.
Lorraine,
Mhm.
I can't just dive right into our topic.
Right.
So let's discuss some brand news. And some of these are big brands.
Yeah.
I'll give you two options and you take us down our rabbit trail to the side you want to go on.
Okay.
Number one, did you hear about Dominion's energy name change to Enbridge? That's EN Bridge.
Right.
Or number two, did you hear that Applebee's and IHOP are going to share kitchen spaces? Similar to KFC, Long John Silver's, and Taco Bell. And they are commonly found sharing kitchen space. In fact, A&W, which I didn't even know they still had those around, also share spaces there. So both are news. You grab the one you want to talk about, and I'll grab the other.
Man, I can't talk about both. I mean, I could do it.
Sure, go for
I
it.
can do it really fast. Enbridge is a terrible name, and even though they're the bigger entity who bought Dominion,
Yep.
they should have dropped their ego and gone with Dominion. Much better name. Enbridge, Endbridge, end of whatever. It's terrible.
Yeah, the bridge to nowhere.
Bridge to nowhere. And then, I have to laugh at like these people sharing kitchens. I don't know. I can't imagine a strong brand ever doing that, right? A strong brand would never share a kitchen nor anything like that. Share spit, share a kitchen. I don't know. To me, it's like the flag you wave before defeat, right?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? I don't get it.
Well, I haven't ever seen a KFC with a Long John Silver's and a Taco Bell, but I can only imagine trying to order a spicy filet taco.
My
Try
mind
to
is
get all those three
sorry.
mashed up together.
I'm sorry. I'm like totally confused by that. Totally.
Yeah.
My mind can't handle it.
Well, I guess what happens at the back of the kitchen stays at the back of the kitchen.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
the retail spaces are out and about. So
I get it.
anyhow,
Yeah.
Applebee's is just, I don't know, it's sunk so badly since the pandemic, and IHOP's been going downhill for a long time. So it's like you said, probably that last gasp of air before they go under.
Last gasp of air before. I mean, really, can you ever imagine a strong brand doing that?
No.
Doing this? It's so desperate.
Well, this is to mentally prepare you for today's episode
Okay.
and our listeners.
I need mental preparation.
Because we're talking big brands, big trouble. That doesn't mean rainbows and unicorns.
Well, I think between 70-degree weather and snow the next day and back to 50 and up to 60 and down, I really need a mental reset.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Welcome to Ohio.
Oh my gosh. It's been
Well, Lorraine, let's name this episode, and maybe it will be the start of a new book. We'll call it Big Brands, Big Trouble, the 2024 edition by Lorraine and Mark.
That'd be
How's that
great.
for a new book title?
I think it'd be great because I think that poor Jack is probably turning in his grave and itching to add a few more of the mistakes to his list that he came out with in the original book.
Yep, good. Well, here's what we'll do. We'll show our viewers the 9 common mistakes that Jack codified in his book. And then once we list those, I'll let you walk us through each one.
Okay.
And explain each one in your shortest description possible.
Okay.
Then we'll go back and expand on them as we talk about the brands that are impacted by those mistakes.
Right.
And that will be a little bit longer discussion. Who knows? We might even end up with 2 episodes out of this. So here's what's going to be on screen here for our listeners. The number 1 mistake, the Me Too mistake. Number 2, the what are you selling mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, truth will win out mistake. Number 4, the other guy's idea mistake. Number 5, go opposite mistake. Number 6, the we're very successful mistake. Number 7, the everything for everybody mistake. Number 8, the live by the numbers Wall Street mistake. And number 9, the not attacking yourself mistake.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So those are the 9 mistakes. We have those up on the screen that our listeners and viewers can see. And Lorraine, let's go through again in a short description. Give us what these mistakes are, and then we'll go back and cover the brands that are impacted. So number 1 is the Me Too mistake. Give us a definition.
Sure. I think that's a mistake that's caused by benchmarking that has this concept that people believe that there is an objective reality and therefore objective quality. And that you can just compare brands and one brand is going to be superior than the other based on this comparison. And the mistake of this mistake is that it's all about perceptions, right? Mm-hmm. So, and if you're not number 1, you're already at a disadvantage because in a category, if someone is a generic in that category, like Kleenex or Q-tips or Gore-Tex or whatever, they're always going to believe perceptually, no matter what facts you put out, that brand is superior. So whoever got there first wins.
Very good. Okay, number 2 is what are you selling mistake. Give us your definition.
This is one of my big bugaboos with a lot of times when we get into a situation where a client wants to redefine a category, but they use terms that no one understands, right? Or you see an ad and you have no idea what this thing is, what the product is. So if you present a confusing category, your chances of getting into the mind are slim to none. So, the thing is to make the category as simple as possible. I'll give you an example. Years ago, and I know we're going to do examples, but this will help real quick. Hamburger Helper was originally going to be hamburger extenders. I mean, terrible. Terrible category.
Sounds like hair extensions.
So again, choose the name of the category in a way that people really understand and relate to with very common words.
Okay, very good. That's easy to understand. Okay, number 3, the truth will win out mistake.
Yeah. And again, this goes back to this idea that people compare based on reality and that your reality is their reality, when we know that battle is really in the mind is a battle for perception. Who has the best perception? So again, it's insisting that the more I tell, the more I sell, the more people will understand, and rather than concentrating on creating the right perception.
Yeah, we have clients that want to educate. And if they just tell enough and write enough and talk enough, that they're going to win it out.
And education is the slow boat to the goal. It's like taking a paddle boat across the ocean.
Yeah,
You
very
see
good.
those things, right?
Yep. Okay, number 4, the other guy's idea mistake.
Yeah, and this is the Me Too, and this is where what happens is, and it's a little different than the first one we were talked about, but it's saying that if I copy my competitors, I do what they do, um, then what will happen is I'll be successful like them. And the problem is that, if you're Me Too, you're always playing catch up. You're always behind. You're never going to get ahead with the Me Too strategy. You're never going to stand out.
Very good. Okay. The next one, number 5, is the go opposite mistake.
Yeah, no, actually, this isn't a mistake. This is, I mean, he talks about the go opposite in the book, but it's not a
Mhm.
mistake. It's actually the right way to go. If you're number 2 brand in a
Mhm.
category, you should go east to the west. And it's perfect advice for number 2. If you're not number 2, there's a little limerick that Trout had, and I don't know which book it was from. It might have been from the book about the genius or something, but it was 1, 2, or something new.
Mm.
So if you can't be number 2, you can't be the opposite to number 1. If they're the fastest, maybe you're the most reliable, or you sacrifice speed for reliability. But everybody else, 1, 2, or something new, find something else.
Very good. Okay, number 6, the we're very successful mistake.
Yeah, this is a big one. This is the one that breeds arrogance. A lot of leaders get stuck in their own accolades. They love giving themselves their own awards based on the past or the near present, and they stop thinking of the future. So they stop innovating, and they see leadership as a stuck place or a fixed point. Dangerous as heck. It breeds complacency and arrogance, and it really opens you up to attack. So you must always be attacking yourself. You must always be leading as an
Mm.
active verb versus just a leader as a noun.
Would you say most of corporate America is stuck in this at this point?
Well, I don't know about most quantifying it that way, but I would say that it's a very common mistake. The bigger the brand, the easier it is for this to take hold.
Very good. Number 7, the everything for everybody mistake.
Yeah, and this one is the gross unfocusing, which leads to line extension beyond any kind of logical sense that a consumer would associate the brand with. And it's usually done because the manufacturer or the product sponsor or service company thinks that again, it kind of comes from hubris, this idea that we're bigger than we think, and that we can go into areas that don't logically fit because we can do whatever we want to do. And it leads to devolution of the brand. What happens is the more you add, the more you subtract. That's what history has shown. The more you add in terms of different, it's not just products that are part of line extension. It can be formulas, it can be varieties that get out of hand and become really impossible for the consumer to weed through. But what happens is it weakens the core brand. If you try and stand for all these things, then the sharp focus of what you stand for just starts to wane and eventually becomes so fuzzy that you're now, again, opening yourself to attack in any one of those areas.
Good. Number 8,
Mm.
the live by the numbers mistake, or what's also known as the Wall Street mistake.
Yeah, this is and we have seen these things where companies are driving themselves to constant growth.
Mhm.
Um, they don't have a desire for growth; they have a desperate need for growth. And I think that was said by, was that Milton Friedman? I don't remember
Mhm.
who said
Yep.
that, but
In the
and
60s.
so what happens is, and this happened to my husband's corporate company, right? He had these quarterly meetings called AOP, and they would say, we want to grow 20% in this market segment, and here's the profit, and turn it over to sales and marketing, as if that's even realistic. It's a category that has negative growth. right? And how are you supposed to do that? So
Go out
it's
and shoot the competition, apparently.
yeah, and I'm happy to say that company is now no longer. It got purchased because their stock prices kept going down. So this is forced by kind of a need to please investors and or the stock market, the people on Wall Street, and really profit and success and revenue should be driven by doing the right things in the right way, and then that's a byproduct rather than that's the goal and now somehow people have to figure out how to get there in sometimes impossible territories to conquer. It also leads to what we've seen as this fear of missing out kind of idea,
Mhm.
where we have these investors, these huge investment banks and things who want to invest in things like WeWork or Theranos or Bitcoin, right? And they jump on and they give this false evaluation to these companies. And I don't have to mention where what's happened to all three of those.
Yeah.
So this is just a bad thing that's happened in. And I think that the thing about the investors, what do they call those? Like they have a term for this type of investors,
The angel investors,
the
or
angel investors, or
yep.
that's almost a newer phenomena that I'm not sure was as big in 2001 when Jack wrote the book, but I'm sure he'd have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. Good. The last mistake in his book is the not attacking yourself mistake.
Yeah, again, this comes from that complacency of like, thinking I'm the leader and you get complacent. And then what you do is you kind of stay stuck, and or you are trying to stave off a technology that's simply going to leapfrog where you are, and you try to either block that in some way, like
Mhm.
Kodak with digital cameras and digital photography. They invented it, but they internally kiboshed it because they thought it would eat their current market share in film. Well, you have to take the right risk, calculated risk. You can either have someone else eat the market share on film, or you can eat it. And it
Mhm.
does take some discernment, but this is a problem where companies just don't attack themselves to stay current with where the trends are going.
Right. Good. Okay, you ready to do our deep dive now?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So we'll go clear back to the top again.
Okay.
And the Me Too mistake. And the first time I ever saw this in play, and this is going back to the 70s. So, I'm dating myself here,
Yeah.
but I always remember VHS and Beta.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you remember which was the better product?
Well, I think Beta was the better product, but they didn't win the battle.
They did not. They said
Hmm.
they were better. They said they were better, but who went to town and marketed like crazy?
Yep. Yep.
VHS.
Right.
So they felt by saying we're better and people knowing that their product was better was going to help them win, and that's not the way it played out in the marketplace.
Yep. And if I'm not incorrect, and someone who's listening could correct me if I am, but I believe Polaroid was the first to come out with the Polaroid camera that made those instant photos that was such a joy to see pop out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Kodak, who was the leader in film and photography, came in afterwards with their product. They got sued for patent infringement and lost. But it just shows that they tried to be Me Too, and that would have been a time for Kodak to leapfrog. But what they
Mm-hmm.
did, they tried to be Me Too, and even though they were the leader in the category, they lost. They not only lost because of the patent thing, but no one's ever going to associate Kodak with the Polaroid.
Right.
And so, you know, I just think that was an interesting example. And by the way, we have one of those Kodak cameras, and I'm wondering if it's worth any money.
Well, don't leave yet to find out. We need
What?
you for a few more
No,
minutes,
no,
Lorraine.
it's in my basement. It's in my basement. It's one of the few things I didn't get rid of.
Put it out on Facebook Marketplace for $1,000 and see
It could
if
be
it
worth
sells.
something because they had to stop making it, as I recall. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that'd be interesting to see.
Hmm.
Any other Me Too mistakes that you can think of that are more frequent. We see this happen with clients a bit, but
Yeah.
any brands you can think of that had had fallen into the Me Too mistake recently?
Well, there's just, I mean, I don't have a specific, there's just so many. I mean, if you take any category almost, right? I would say the uh,
Hmm.
automobile category is so full of Me Too. It's
Yeah.
insane. And I don't know how anyone makes a decision other than an affinity for a certain brand, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
Like, oh, I just happen to like Kia, or I happen to like Nissans, and for whatever reason. So I don't really have any more specifics. I think those are good ones.
Yeah, car is great. There are a few that stand out, and why people buy anymore. But I think folks in the past might have been, I'm a GM guy, I'm a Ford guy. I see people jumping all over the place. Families own multiple different brands,
Yeah,
and it's more around a personality than it is anything else. And the car commercials, I mean, they all blend together. They
they
just,
do. It's
yeah,
so commoditized, and other than like Tesla or something
yeah,
extreme on that end of the equation.
yeah. Very good. Okay, let's go to number two, which is the what are you selling mistake.
Yeah,
And I know we have a recent example on this one, but
yeah,
I always like to share with people because we do so much in the web world that the way this jumps out at me in the web is we have uh, what we call prototyping that leads out the process. Some people call it information architecture, other people call it wireframing. But they say you have all of 3 seconds to make that impression as to whether someone's going to stay on the site or not.
hmm
And it blows my mind how many times we see um, websites come in and you look at them and you don't know what they're selling. You have no
yeah,
clue. They
yeah,
could be called ABC Company, which doesn't tell you what they do. And
right,
then you go to their site and it says products, services, applications, markets, and about, right?
yeah,
Well, and then the photo is a stock photo. So you go, okay, ABC Company, I have no idea what they're selling. And now I have to click to see, okay, what products do they have or what markets do they serve or something. And there's that void of telling me what category are you, because until we know the category,
yep.
then I don't know why I would buy from you versus someone else, because I don't even know who this someone else is because I don't know what category you're in.
That's right. That's right. And that so there you're pointing to something that's like twofold. One is just naming the category, right?
Mhm.
So I talked about hamburger helpers. Um, there, there was a new product, a new confection, which ended up being called a cake pop. Have you had
Mm.
cake pops? Well, they started out calling cake on a stick. Well, which one connects better with the
Yeah.
mind? Cake pop or cake on a stick? I don't know what cake on a stick is, but I know a lollipop, and this is kind of a new thing. So, there's some ingenuity that has to go into the naming of the category to begin with, so it's clear.
Mhm.
And then there's the advertising itself. And I think a lot of times, particularly I see this in business to business, where clients feel they have a very sophisticated solution, whether it's a service solution or whatever, and they feel like they have to talk in a highfalutin way to their audience
Mm.
about solutions. That's like the worst word ever, right? Like we have Earth solutions. What is Earth solutions, right? I don't know. Is that manure? What is that? And why are we, you know, obfuscating that with some highfalutin language?
Mhm.
And for a long time, and you'll know this now, I didn't know what a logistics company was.
Yeah.
Like they're trucking. Okay, I understand they've evolved now. Most people know that it's about the planning and all, but it's taken quite a long time to do that. But my point is, why confuse your audience?
Yeah.
Why not start with the most handleable idea that captures the greatest mind share and then differentiate your brand within that?
Mhm.
So,
Well, and if you think about it, solutions, how many years did we have to get clients to get away from solutions? Solutions doesn't do anything. It's an extra word in there to say that we couldn't figure out what it was that we do. So we'll just call it solutions.
Right. Because we feel like being pedantic
Mm-hmm.
with just saying we're a lender
Mm-hmm.
is somehow, oh man, so now we have financial solutions. Well, what kind of financial solutions for who? What is that? The lack of specificity in marketing is deadly,
Yeah.
really deadly. So, yeah, we can talk on this one forever because there's just so many examples.
Well, we talked on one from the Super Bowl, if you remember, the apartments.com and
Oh, yeah,
homes.com. Do
yeah,
you remember that?
yeah.
Talk us through that one.
Well, I I still don't understand completely what apartments.com does. And lo and behold, now they come out with homes.com, which is the worst advertised commercial. I have no idea what's going on in that commercial.
Yeah.
And they have more than the one that aired in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's just I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what it is. I don't know who they're marketing to. Is it to me as a consumer? Is it to another real estate agency? I know it has something to do with real estate, right? But that's about it. So I just feel like that fits this category. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, for our listeners, if you don't recall, it was Jeff Goldblum that was talking to two aliens
Hmm.
after the soldiers are ready to wipe them out. And he walks in and he goes, I know what they want. They want a one bedroom, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the aliens talk. And of course, he solves the solution. But we're all sitting there at the end going, what?
What
Why
is
do I
what
want
is
aliens living next to me?
yeah, yeah,
So, and then homes.com got into the like, we know your neighborhood better than anyone. And they were doing really weird, even perverted or I don't know, crazy things in the neighborhood, like getting in the huddle of a little league midget football game
yeah.
or something
Yeah,
like
what's
that.
that? Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
it just requires so much interest to be involved enough to then
Yeah.
figure out, if you ever figure out what they're trying to sell and realize it doesn't pertain to me.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
great advertising is a benefit to the consumer in that it helps you immediately understand, is this something I could possibly be interested or might be interested? And I think when confusion is kind of the name of the game, it just doesn't work.
Well, doesn't it remind us to put things in the right order too? Um, when I think of that, I could see where homes.com could take those videos and maybe make them a little longer and make them funnier, but put them on their website or in their social media where people are already engaging with the brand. And
Right.
then they build on the brand meaning a little bit. It's just like what we say when you first get to a website, I need to know what you're selling before you tell me why you're different.
Yeah.
And so this is a hierarchy thing, isn't it? Wouldn't
I
you
think
say
it
that's
can be.
the
I
best
think
way
it
to
can
look
be.
at it?
Yeah, I think it can be very much just that, because the texture of the humor and how they're approaching it could become part of a brand value if
Hmm.
first I had that clarity understood. I
Yeah,
agree with you. I think that could work.
good. Okay, the next one I think is also pretty self-explanatory, but we have a really good example of this.
Hmm.
The number third mistake, the truth will win out.
Yeah.
So
So.
I think the one that we always like to share, and believe it or not, even the young people can understand this who weren't around when it happened, was the
Mhm.
Pepsi Taste Challenge.
Right.
Share with us, Lorraine.
Well, Pepsi has long been number two to Coca-Cola, when colas were the king of beverage that were non-alcoholic for most of Americans. And Coke got there first, so Coke had the number one position. So it's a perfect example too of going, what happened, what it leads to. But in the early days, what Pepsi did is they wanted to prove that Pepsi tastes better than Coke
Hmm.
to more people. And so they did the Pepsi blind taste test. And I'm not opposed to taste tests. Um, but in this case, what they were banking on is that by winning the taste test, they could prove they were better than Coke. And it never happened. It never translated. And even though in taste after taste, Pepsi won hands down, 2-1. Coke retained its market share, and Pepsi barely gained at all. So why is that? It's because ultimately people taste images.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these were blind taste tests, so I want to say that first. So in a blind taste test, meaning you don't know what you're drinking, people would choose Pepsi. But what would happen is that didn't affect their buying mentality in terms of their perception of the product. So it's a perfect case of how reality doesn't win out.
Yeah, and what's interesting, where I think this manifests itself quite a bit, is when you hear brands um, mention other brands in their own marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it was either McDonald's doing it with Burger King or Burger King doing it with McDonald's, and the competitor's market share went up, even though the other one was the one initiating the marketing for it. And it was, we're better than these guys. It's kind of the combination of, number 3 and number 1, which is, the Me Too. We're better, we're better.
Right.
But this truth will win out. It's taking that principle that um, if you just compare and you see how good we are, then you will want us. And that goes back to your point about reality
Well,
versus.
here's the thing about comparisons, and a lot of clients are really fascinated with product comparisons. If you're comparing on the same factors, and you're not you're not number one in the mind, you're not the leader, you're going to lose.
Mhm.
You're comparing on the same factors. Much better to contrast, to compare on things that the leader doesn't have or doesn't do or can't do well. There's no defense for that from the leader.
Yep.
And the defense for them would be to become a Me Too, which in the end weakens them. So it's really important we understand what kind of comparison works. It's comparing on contrast, not comparing on the same things.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. The word you always use is, let's find the things that make us incomparable,
Yeah,
so that even the competition can't come in and compare us because they don't even have those things.
right.
So that's always a good approach for it. Well, Lorraine, we only got through 3 things today, but that's okay, because this podcast continues each week.
Right.
And I hope for this week you stay out of big trouble,
Yeah, I hope
at
so
least for
too.
the balance of today. Okay.
I'm hoping so. It's the week is early yet,
Yeah.
still, right? It's
Well, we
Tuesday.
have Easter coming up this Sunday, so you have to remember to be on your game there.
That's right.
So,
Because yeah, I
yep.
have to go from my bunny outfit to being taken seriously.
Yep. Very good. Yeah, it's an early Easter this year. Well,
Yeah.
to our listeners, thank you for joining us again. And if you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, or told your friends about the Brand Shorthand podcast, please do. And until next time, have an amazing day.
Business but my own.